What's going on, guys? This is Groove, your guide and guru, martial artist, and philosopher. And since I don't pay my own channel enough attention, Maria has me here reviewing something that I didn't think I was going to review, but it's a short one, so it shouldn't take long. So what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Approach the Nerd. I haven't been here in a while. Happy to see me? Yeah, you don't have to be. It doesn't matter. I'm here anyway, so you're stuck with me for the next, 10, 15 minutes. And we're here talking about a show that right now is pretty much so disliked and people are disgusted with. Masters of the Universe Revelation. So, okay, let's start this off. I didn't even know this thing existed until about a week or so ago. I guess that's fair, how long it's been out. And I really didn't follow the hype of it coming out. As a matter of fact, I think I saw something about the hype maybe like a month ago, but I didn't pay much mind. As a kid, I wasn't really a He-Man kid like that. I saw the cartoon, I watched it, don't get me wrong, but I was more of a Brave Star fan. We're talking about Filmation works. And then later on into Turtle Son, stuff like that. He-Man wasn't really the thing for me at the time. Like, it didn't really appeal to me as much. But it was still a pretty decent cartoon for, a grown-up kid. So, if you haven't watched it and you want to watch it, I'm telling you right now, spoilers ahead. From this point on out, there's not gonna be a part where there are no spoilers. So if you wanna go watch it, stop right here, go watch it. It's like 5 episodes long. It's like as long as a movie. Like each episode's like 25 minutes a piece, something like that. So it doesn't take long to get through it. It's not a hard binge. And come back and listen to the rest of this and see if you agree or disagree. But if you have, let's continue on. If you have not, you just came back, welcome back. Let's continue on. So the story is very simple. He-Man dies, and there's a new hero, new sheriff in town, Teela. And Teela is being basically requested by Evil Lyn to retrieve the broken power sword and return the magic back to Eternia and, save the universe. Now, this is not a terrible premise. I'm going to say that out front before I start breaking a few things down. I've seen a lot of YouTube videos from the nerd community and the not nerd community, whether it's the manosphere or the femsphere or whatever world we're in. Most people's consensus do not like how this went. Some are pretty okay with it. I see the one thing I most often notice, and I had the same question: why call it Master of the Universe and make it seem like He-Man's a big, even the preview, the promos, they put so much He-Man in it. He's not really in the show, not really. He's not even the focus. He is the reason why the plot is a plot, and that's the thing. But just because you're the reason why the plot was kicked off does not make you a main character, nor does it really make you a protagonist at all. So it can actually make you an antagonist. To break down this whole episode, He-Man and friends are going to fight Skeletor for nefarious reasons. Skeletor's trying to gain all the power in the universe again. That's how a lot of the show cyclic like that. But Teela's also trying to become man-at-arms like her father. That's the whole premise of the first episode. They get to this orb of power thing, whatever. And forget if I don't remember the names of everything because I've only really watched it like 1.5 times through. Because after a while I started watching other stuff. I'm like that. Sorry. But anyway. So they're supposed to get this overpower thing. They do gain it, but then Skeletor pops that bubble and everything goes boom, and the universe is gonna go boom with it. And then He-Man decided, well, I'm gonna sacrifice myself for the sake of everybody in Eternia, to keep everybody safe and alive. So to do that, he used himself and the Sword of Power all together, which split the Sword of Power in half, and took him and Skeletor with it. At that same moment, Teela learned that He-Man is Prince Adam, because she never knew. If you didn't know, now you know. She never knew that. And she was all shocked by the surprise. So, of course, he had to go back to the royal family, tell He-Man's or Prince Adam's parents that Adam is dead because He-Man is dead and Adam is He-Man. Of course, his mom knew, the Queen, Man-at-Arms knew, Orko knew, Cringer knew. The dad didn't know, of course, King didn't know, and Teela didn't know. So the King fired Teela's dad for his negligence, which makes absolutely no sense because he was doing what the prince asked him to do, and that's his job anyway. And then Tila goes, I'm tired of all the lies, y'all told me none but false, so you didn't trust me to tell me the truth. So anyway, she gets mad, throws down her fiery sword and gives God the finger. What a lovely reference to a movie I highly enjoy by the same creator, Kevin Smith. Anyway, so she is mad, abdicates her duties, and decides to go off, become a freelance bounty hunter with her new, I'm gonna assume, that's her girlfriend. And so anyway, we move right along to future time. She hates magic now, which is a really weird thing to do because your friend didn't tell you who he was. It doesn't matter, especially magic, like it was a part of your life for the longest, but the world is being drained of it anyway. There's not much of it left. So an old hag who is clearly Evelyn requests Tila and her friend to go find a broken piece of the power sword and put them back together. The next episodes ensuing are her reflecting on times her and He-Man save the day, stuff you don't get to really see them do, but you get to see them do because there's a lot of cool fight scenes in this cartoon. They go to Man of Arms because they know he can fix the sword, but he finds it to be a washed up failure, and Tila goes, yeah, you're a washed up failure, and you didn't love me and Mom, which has nothing to do with anything, but you knew what his job was, Man of Arms. Chick, you knew you wanted the same position. I mean, get serious. And we didn't really dig into your true desires that much, outside the fact you're supposed to just be a badass. Anyway, so he turns it down, and this is all after, by the way, I'm back a little bit. It's weird because even Cringer is really sympathetic and a voice of reason far more than Tila is, and I figured, it just rubs me a little weird, because Cringer's almost a coward. Now Cringer is like desperate and apologetic. Even when decides to travel with them to make sure they get what they're supposed to be getting in the first place. Okay, so Orko is sick and dying, which if I didn't know this, if you ever saw like the early promos and premieres and shit, Kevin Smith did say Orko was gonna die in the series anyway. So if you already knew that was a spoiler of a spoiler, like a real one. So you knew him going with them was going to end his life, but it is whatever. Man, I'm gonna butcher up so much stuff here. So they go forward and they go to the land of the dead. They come across Skullglow. Going forward, I think it's Tila, her friend. I can never remember the girl's name. I just can't. Orko, Evelyn, that robot guy. You're gonna hate me for not remembering his names, but I'm not remembering these names. I wasn't a super huge He-Man fan back in the day, so a lot of stuff I don't remember. That's very early childhood for me. And was someone else there? Man, I wasn't there. Beastman was there. Beastman was there serving Evelyn. That's what it was. And so they go across the icy waters, go to the land of the dead, fight Skullglow, who tries to beat Tila with fear, which she easily overcomes, by the way. It takes her nothing to defeat the fear and feel she's the most like fearless thing out there, which is outsane. Yeah, it is outsane. That's exactly what it is. New word, use it. Make that lexicon, put that in Webster's. It's outsane how just amazing and incredible she's supposed to be, how powerful she is. So anyway, they beat Skullglow, well they outsmart him rather in a way, and then he tries to keep them from going, so they find out that the other part of the sword is in Preternia, basically Valhalla, while the He-Man in the past go to rest once they die. And Orko decides to help them out for the first time ever in Orko's entire existence, really gets good at magic because it talks between him and Evelyn from earlier. And it's this cute little moment when they do have this little come together moment. Orko gives his real name as being Oracle. Oh, huge spoiler on that one, right? And he just couldn't say it right because he was dumb. And Evelyn, her name is just Lynn, the evil she put on there. And it's like, oh yeah, haha, what a meta moment. But anyway, Orko decides to use some real magic, actually hold Skullglow back and sacrifice himself with Skullglow. Now, I will say this, him and Skullglow disappeared into some place. We don't know where they went. He could be dead, he could not be. If you remember, like, it's that old Star Wars argument, did you see a body? If no body, no death. Kind of going to that nerd debate there. I mean, we are all kind of feeling that Orko was dead, especially as Captain Smith, he died, and they did have a little, service for him in Preternia. But we don't really know. I mean, Kevin Smith could just bring him back so they went to another dimension. Remember, Skullglow himself is also from another dimension, if you remember that at all. So they meet the Order Preternia, find the other half of the sword, which is funny how the sword split into two and went to the land of the dead in heaven. Like, wow, it really didn't want to be found, didn't it? And Prince Adam is there, obviously, in his Prince Adam self form, tries to talk to Tila. Tila's being a complete just jerk to him. She's so mad at him still. After all she's been going through, she's still angry at him, getting over herself and believing in magic again, like, you know, believing in fairies kind of thing. And man, it is just insane how petty she is about it. Like, wow. I mean, she gets over it kind of fast anyway. And then they decided they used the robot. I can never remember the robot's name, I swear, and I know you guys are gonna correct me in the comment section and call me a complete moron and Philistine, but they use him to forge the sword back together, which he does, and it destroys him because, you know, I'll get to that in a second. Anyway, they get the sword. There's a lot of cool Easter eggs too, a lot of different He-Man types in the background. Like the Wonder Bread version of He-Man and the early concept art of He-Man, and they're like all different kind of He-Mans, so to speak. And the first He-Man was a black guy, so, Alright, well, right on, well done. I think it was by Phil Lamar, I think. Yeah, actually, this thing had a really good all-star cast, honestly. But get back to that, I'll go back to that in a second before I go over what I don't like. They go back to Eternia. Adam leaves Preternia, knowing that he can never return once you leave it, and decides to put the sword back together and restore the match of the world. But surprise, surprise, Skeletor comes back with him because he was hiding in Evelyn's like knapsack or something, and stabs He-Man in the back. Prince Adam falls on the ground in pain, whether he's dead or not, we don't know. It looked like he stabbed him more like in the side than straight through, like a vital spot, like more through like the side of the abdomen. And he holds up the sword, gets the power of the power sword, and becomes, I guess, Skeletor He-Man? He-Man Skeletor? No. Power Skeletor? Skeletor power? Anyway, and that's where it ends. So, now that I've befuddledly, whatever you want to call it, since I kind of just janked over and messed up, you know, recapped it in the most clumsy way that I could possible. Now to go over what I didn't like, my stuff. Now, start with what I did like. I liked the animation was awesome. The art style was very, very pretty. The fight sequences were great. The cast was really well picked. Like, we had Mark Hamill in there, we had Phil Lamar in there. Jason Mewes was actually in this. He played Stinkor. I had to look that up. I did not realize that was Jason Mewes playing Stinkor. That's pretty funny. Lena Headey. Who else? There's a lot of Sarah Michelle Gellar, if I'm not mistaken, is the one who's playing, I think it's Teela, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it's Teela. Hold on, real fast. Make sure I didn't say that wrong. Hold on. Yeah. Okay, I got it right person. Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, now I messed it up at all. That would have been really, really embarrassing. Alicia Silverstone was in it, Kevin Conroy. So, I mean, like, they had a really good voice acting cast, and it showed. The voice acting was pristine, phenomenal, beautiful. And that was great. Honestly, for story, it's not even a bad story. And when people attack the story, I don't understand that part. It's not a bad storyline. It really isn't. It's not even a bad adventure tale. Like, for what it's worth, it's actually pretty well done. I think the major problem people really have is that they really expect He-Man to be the hero. If you wanted Teela to be your main protagonist, you should have named it, you know, like The Legend of Teela or Teela Story or something like that, instead of, you know, calling this Masters of the Universe. I think that was really disingenuous. Now, we're done with what I thought was nice about it. There's a lot of things that are problematic with the storytelling. I say a lot, and it's not really, because it's not a lot of story to tell about to have all these problems with. It's just certain themes that need to go away. Like, for one, the female hero trope with her being as mature as a 14-year-old boy, why do we keep making these stories? Like, that's getting annoying. Like, they did it with Korra, they did it with Rey. Like, stop making these characters, these female characters that have like so little personality, way too emotional for somebody who has a designation or a journey, and then giving them this all-encompassing, I can't lose power. Like, that makes absolutely no sense. Like, that is such a Mary Sue fantasy, and I really hate attaching that title to so many things now, but it's really prevalent. I mean, don't get me wrong, a lot of stories that are male and protagonist based or focused have that same problem. But in this case, we're talking about, like, you don't have to make, and speaking of that, with Teela, why is she so big? Like, I get in He-Man, everybody had muscles, but their muscle proportions were accurate to real people. We know this because Filmation used a lot of rotoscope when they did animation back in the day. This goes for stuff like He-Man, Flash Gordon, Brave Star. I mean, they had that iconic look because they used rotoscope, and it was because it was cheaper. They took real people, recorded them doing it, sketched over them, and then of course did a whole lot of like 23, 22 frames per second animation and a lot of jump cuts, so it made it look really cheap and tawdry. But regardless, that's what they did when they did this. So when you're looking at the early He-Man Master Universe cartoon from back in like the 70s and 80s, I say more like 80s, yeah, 70s and 80s, yeah. When you watch that cartoon, understand those are real people, real builds. Like the way Tila looked, that was a real female bodybuilder. They used that frame. That's her real frame. What were you doing making her like Tila looks like she eats people. You understand what I'm saying? Like she is so big. Like I am big. I have a lot of muscle. Tila looks bigger than me. Like maybe not big. Maybe she does look bigger than me. Let me take that back. Tila is huge. And it's not the only problem with that because He-Man looks massive. He-Man looks like He-Man looks like he can high five a planet. And it's like there's no reason. Superman is not even built to look that big. And they don't even create Goku with that much muscle. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense to make him so much bigger. I understand the aesthetics, but this kind of reminds me of that mid-90s Marvel comic type of thing where everybody had these really big chests and super small waistlines and extremely designed quads and calves and a whole bunch of extra belts where they're not necessary. It has that feel to it, and I don't like that. That should have stayed where it last lived and where it was buried. Don't bring that look back. There's no need for that look. It's just like it's overcompensating. You don't need all that extra nonsense. And then of course, you know, beyond all the pandering and like, cause there is a lot of like woman power pandering in it, which is over the top, and now that you can tell men wrote this to do that because that's not good storytelling and it doesn't make a lot of sense. And I'm not even trying to say that to say that women don't do that in storytelling because they do. I mean, the Twilight, but it's, man, when it comes to action narratives, you don't have to do that. I mean, hell, Sarah Michelle Gellar played Tila, and in Buffy wasn't even all that damn invincible. She could lose. So I mean, like, she had her weaknesses and her faults, but none of them were on her over emotionality to the character. They were just stuff she hadn't learned yet, stuff she hadn't figured out yet. Even then, she was still a teenager, so it made sense for her to be a teen till she got older. Then that kind of faded away. You have to know how to tell stories where characters actually have a growth potential. I mean, Mulan's a good example of this. I mean, with Mulan, she starts off not knowing who she is, and it's a continuation of growth story. Disney version, not live action. Live action is a whole other ballgame. I don't want to talk about that. But it legit, you have a hero's journey. Like, even when we had male characters that were heroes back in the day, they weren't all over invincible. Even James Bond got shot once or twice. You know, there's still faults in their character. They have to develop and grow. Like with Tila here, there wasn't a real fault in her character. I mean, she literally, He-Man, Prince Adam had to become He-Man, overcome Skullgirl's influence when Skullgirl first was introduced in the comics. And that took a lot of effort. Tila has no sort of power whatsoever like that, but just overcame it over basically sheer willpower. Willpower. And this is a woman who's been petty over a guy that didn't tell her who he was in secret to protect her identity from people like Skullmaster. So like, uncomfortable. Other than that, I did not hate this series. I really didn't. It wasn't bad. It really wasn't bad. Continues, it wasn't a bad series to me. It was disingenuous. That's true. But it wasn't bad. And they could have done better with, you know, this is a nitpick. But when you have a story, and we know why it usually doesn't happen, because they can't claim ownership of the properties of other titles. We know that She-Ra lives in the same universe as He-Man. Why would the Power Sword be the one thing that keeps matched together? The Sword of Protection is just as powerful. So why is that one sword the only reason that, you know, Eternia is dying? There's another whole sword that's magical based. Like, so did She-Ra just lose all her powers one day because He-Man decided to sacrifice himself? That makes absolutely no sense. Like, it's a weird dynamic of there can be only one, and that weird unbalance in storytelling is awful, and it causes for a lot of weird tips in the scale that don't make sense. You see this a lot in certain movies, but like, especially in Marvel movies, especially when it's some kind of weird threat, but they can't handle it for some reason. Like, well, what about Spider-Man? Ain't they there? They don't own those properties, so no, they're on their own. Like, you know, if something was that galactic happening at one time, they would all come in to help save the day. You know what I mean? But oh man, it's such a weird nitpick. I know, but that's just how I feel about it. Yeah. So I think I covered everything. I covered what I liked about it, some of my problems with it, and oh yeah. Writers in the future, and I think everybody can kind of agree. Hope everybody can agree with this one. Please stop making the male characters either bumbling idiots, sacrificial lambs. That seems to be a really big deal, just killing them off, or extremely inferior. Like, even though they're not inferior characters, and then making them weaker than those who they would normally be stronger than. I don't understand this. Like. But then you create these gaps for the female characters. Like, Tila was able to fight an entire fucking army on Snake Mountain. And like a robot human hybrid people, whatever. Yet somehow she couldn't catch Skeletor reanimating himself behind Adam, slowly, bit by bit, and then stab him. You couldn't stop that? At all the stuff we've seen you do, you defeated hordes by yourself. You conquered Skullglow by yourself. You were clearly a He-Man character, if not He-Man himself, just as a woman. Just through sheer will and I guess a whole lot of push-ups, sit-ups, and plenty of juice. Yet you couldn't stop Skeletor from stabbing him and help save the entire world. Why was there such a blind spot put in there for plot convenience, obviously, but man, I just don't. Stuff like that, I don't understand that. Why give him so much power, make him, and then nerf him at the last minute, and then you give all these male characters just the reason to die. They're throwaways. Like, you know, if you want to make a show about all women doing all women stuff, that's fine. I mean, that's kind of what She-Ra was for anyway. But, you know, you make that clear. You know, and don't create male characters just to be in the way. Like, it just makes no sense. Even when we have female characters that were mostly sex objects and all that other nonsense, they still had the purpose outside of being sex objects. And we rarely, I say rarely, that'd be a lot, but we didn't always sacrifice them just for the greater good of the male character. Other than that though, man, that's all I gotta say about it, honestly. If I was giving it a score, 1 out of 10, I give it about maybe 6.5. Because those glaring issues in storytelling need to stop. We need to get better at writing compelling characters for character's sake. Do not write a female character because she's female. Do not write a male character because he's male. Don't write a black character because they're black. Don't write a Asian character because they're Asian. Being black, Asian, male, female, those are not character traits. They're not. They're just characteristics of a character. But other than that, I mean, it was still fun to watch. It's an easy watch. It's very pretty to look at. It's very easy to watch, as a matter of fact. It's fun to watch. That's really all I gotta say. So, if you like this video and you enjoyed hearing my voice or the voices of any other people on this channel when stuff is posted and recorded, make sure you hit that like button. Also, subscribe, ring that bell notification for further updates on future videos so you don't miss out on all the good stuff we got going on here and stuff like that. And now Maria can stop holding me hostage and I can go back and actually work on something that I should be working on, because I'm at times a overworked yet lazy bastard. Anyway, so yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you later on. Take care.
Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciate it, but hey, the party doesn't have to stop now. Click on one of these videos and keep it going.